Welcome, everybody, back to the Friar Talk YouTube channel and podcast. Today, we're a day late, but we're going to be recapping this Padres sweep of the San Francisco Giants. Got to finally see a little bit of an explosion from this team early on in the game from the offense, and then the Giants crawled back every single game, and then the Padres barely held on time and time again. But overall, this was a very entertaining series, a very, very needed just kind of winning streak for the Padres because they're going into LA this weekend. We'll be talking about that a little bit later on in the stream. But overall, I mean, this was a big time series sweep. I mean, if the Padres were going to kind of flip the script and start like getting it going, this was the game when that needed to happen. So Isaac, I feel like last time we talked about this team, we're kind of sad.
Yeah,
Do you feel any better about them right now?
much better because not only were they able to, sweep the Giants, but they were basically able to eliminate the Giants from the playoff race. We've said time and time again, they kind of control their own destiny. So in order to get to the place you want to be, you have to effectively, if given the opportunity, eliminate the teams that are in your way. Basically did that. You put the Giants almost out of contention, almost out of reach. So that is really good that they were able to take advantage of that matchup and kind of take away one obstacle, because the Giants are always a thorn in everyone's side come late September, where it's, oh, they're only down this many games, they still have a chance to make it. Well, the Padres just put them in their place by sweeping them. And not only did they sweep them, they did it while facing Carlos Rodon in the first game and crushing him, and facing Logan Webb in the second game. Two very impressive, two of the best pitchers in baseball, and two very impressive performances from the Padres in terms of being able to hit off two ace caliber pitchers. We had talked about it multiple times before, where the Padres have been very lackluster against ace caliber pitching. They come in this series and effectively do what they haven't done all season. That's crush ace caliber pitching. So that was very good to see. And the crazy thing is, those that we also talked about, it seems like when things are clicking for one or even two sides, there's always something that is not clicking. It's always got to be something. This time around, unfortunately, it was something that had been clicking for a very long time, but just fell off this series, which was the bullpen. And you look at the starts. Blake Snell had himself a fantastic start. Joe Musgrove, fantastic start. Yu Darvish, fantastic. Was it Yu Darvish? Yu Darvish, fantastic start. All of them did really, really well. And the bullpen comes in and kind of lets go of that. Unfortunately, a little bit of it was Nick Martinez. A little bit of it was Luis Garcia. I have full confidence in them to be able to bounce back. Nonetheless, though, once you factor out the bullpen and kind of the fact that was kind of a blip, because they've been so good and they're going to continue to be really good out of the bullpen. Once you factor that all out, this was a fantastic series. I mean, yes, you caught the Giants at a low time where they had lost probably like 3 or 4 in a row before you. But now you're going into LA again. You're going into LA again, coming off a sweep of a division rival. And they just played one of the hardest series of their season. This is a perfect time to be able to take at least 2 from LA. And I mean, being able to sweep the Giants is a beautiful start to September, I would say.
Yeah. And it wasn't Darvish, it was actually Clev that started
There
the
we
first
go.
game.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my bad.
But yeah, I mean, you brought up the bullpen. Dude, yeah, I know. It felt like, all right, so the offense is clicking. Offense has been clicking for a little while now. I think Monday our stream was like, hey, the offense is finally getting rolling. The bats are finally hot. And we got to see a little bit of that early on in games. Sometimes coming from the home run ball, got to see Trent Grisham, Brandon Drury have a couple big-time home runs. Manny Machado putting up still an MVP caliber season. Now, I don't think he's going to take home the award, but he has been absolutely incredible this year. And basically anytime, the Padres need to kind of like flip on, like, all right, they're kind of underwhelming a little bit. Boom, who's the guy? It's been Manny every single time, coming up with big-time clutch hits late in games, no matter what it is. So he was also great the series as well. And he's just been balling out. So I see some people talking about, the parts of the bullpen. One guy also that you mentioned, Robert Suarez, had a rough outing, which was a bummer to hear. And his velo was down too, I believe, in his outing as well. I think that was the Monday one. So that was unfortunate to see, but luckily they were able to kind of scrape together these wins. And even like Nick Martinez didn't have his best stuff in those couple games. He was still able to complete 2 saves and get it done. Martinez has been awesome, and he came in early that Monday game as well. But Josh Hader, I don't know if you saw this tweet. Devin asked, did you guys feel nervous when Hader came in to save? Yes, dude. We thought it was over. I think in Discord, Ace came in and he was like, yeah, like I feel like he's not gonna get it done. Like we're gonna lose right now. So it definitely felt like I was feeling that too. But it was nice. He decided to come out and not throw anything but fastballs, and basically anything but fastballs down the middle. But that's kind of a way to, get back into things. Let's just go out there just to throw straight gas, 97, 98 mile an hour fastballs, and just not really let them hit it. So it was also, I think, a big thing for Hader, because he's been horrible against the Giants. It's not like, okay, yeah, he's slumping. He before that outing, he had a 40 ERA against the Giants. I don't know if you saw that, Isaac. 40 in 3 games.
Damn.
So he had been downright atrocious against the Giants going into it, and they didn't really have anyone else to throw. Like I think everyone knows, like Nick Martinez kind of feels like he's the closer right now, and he's definitely embraced that role. And some of the comments he's made about it, and I think it's been awesome. But it was big that Hader actually came in and delivered in that game. And even with, was it the pass ball? I think it was a pass ball. Technically.
Mm-hmm.
I think they called it a wild pitch, but it was a pass ball.
Right.
They put the guy in scoring position, then he goes and gets the next 2 out. So that was a great way to end the series too, just because it feels like that's been like one of the things where it's like, oh man, like Hader's just like, it feels like that's kind of like dragging down team morale a little bit, just because, Hader being brought in, the expectations were so high for him. And oh yeah, here's Hader's numbers going in.
Yeah, that's insane. That is terrible. But when it comes to Josh Hader, it was funny when he was about to come in, I saw him warming up. I texted in our chat, said, "Oh my God, look who's warming up!" Like I was a little scared, but at the same time, you had to realize I could understand the initial reaction was, why is he coming in? And then you really think, who the hell else is going to come in? Everyone is taxed. The bullpen was taxed because that was our third 1-run game in 3 straight days. We had to keep throwing different guys out of the bullpen and playing matchups. So we essentially had no one to come out of the bullpen. All that was left was Nabil Crismatt and Steven Wilson, I think. And those are not, neither of those guys have closer caliber stuff. You don't want either of those guys closing games. Nabil Crismatt started very well, but he's been kind of cold lately. And Steven Wilson, you just don't want him in there in that type of situation. So there was only one guy to throw in there, and it was Josh Hader. Nonetheless, you had to get him back in there eventually. You really had to get him back into his role, because that's really the only role he's gonna be in. But I will say I was terrified, especially when you see the first 2 batters and he's throwing nothing but fastballs. He does not have his slider, and I was just waiting the whole time for the backdoor slider, waiting to see if he was going to throw it. Nonetheless, he was able to get out of it with just his fastball. I don't think his stuff was necessarily encouraging. I mean, he was still missing out of the zone a little bit, but much less than usual. I think the main thing for him has been his fastball has been constantly missing up in the zone, up in the zone, up in the zone, up and out of the zone, stuff like that. And this time around, he's pumping it in the zone a little more. And maybe it's not encouraging for the fact that, okay, his stuff looked a little better, but it's encouraging in the fact that you got him back out there in a role that has been his whole career, and you were able to get a save out of him. You were able to get a save out of him, and hopefully you were able to still confidence back in him, because I kind of think right now what's going on with Josh Hader it's a very hard mental hurdle to go over, because look at those numbers against the Giants. Horrific. So there was probably some added pressure. Not only have I sucked in a Padres uniform, but I have been horrific against the Giants. 2 mental hurdles you got to climb, and he was able to climb them. So very impressive for him to be able to go in there and kind of not only get the save, but also hopefully help his mental when it comes to being in that closer role.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're definitely right. I think that was kind of two of those things. And I think also for Hader too, like we've talked so much about it, is like it's kind of hard to tell what's wrong with him, but a lot of it feels like mechanics and just kind of like where he's at from a mental standpoint. So if a lot of this has been mental, this is probably the best thing for him to possibly do. Go get a save to get the sweep against the team that's hit you the best, probably for any duration of his career, like the best like in that stretch. And then also when you're slumping the hardest to go in and get that save in a 1-run game too. I think that's the other thing as well. That's a big factor too. Because I feel like there's a lot of added pressure in a 1-run game coming in compared to a 2-run game. And then immediately 1 out and there's a guy on second base. So I thought that was I think that might be big down the stretch. We'll see how he continues to look, if he's able to bring that slider, back into the mix and whatnot. But definitely something that was promising to see, just because it had been so rough every time he had came out. I also see a comment up here. Someone asked, Devin asked, Grisham bunted again with 2 strikes. What do you think about that when they do that? I hate it, dude. And Bob Melvin came out and was like, look, it's a better, there's a better chance, in this scenario. If you're bunting on 2 strikes in a 1-run game, if you're down or you're up by a run, you need to be swinging, bro. You can't be bunting with 2 strikes. That's my take. Is that where you're at too?
You hear that outside?
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that sounds kind of weird. In terms of bunting with 2 strikes, that's just, if there's like no outs and maybe 1 out, I guess I could understand it if you're really trying to move the runner over and if the batter and back of you is really good. But in Trent Grisham's case, I don't get it. This is the second time he's tried doing it. The first time, I believe he struck out, and we all know how the bunting goes. If it's a foul ball, you're done. And he's actually hit for a lot of power recently. I mean, he has like 15, 16 home runs in the past few months. So kind of confused to see why he bunted. And especially because from what you're saying, it sounds like maybe Bob Melvin gave him the okay to do that. But I feel like most of the time when a player does that with 2 strikes, it's not the manager giving the okay. It's them giving themselves the okay. And I don't know if that's exactly what's best for the Padres, especially considering this is essentially your Joey Gallo, a guy that hits for a lot of power, can't hit for average, except for the fact he does not get on, but he does play really good outfield defense. So this is Joey Gallo in a sense. But bunting with 2 strikes, I don't get it. Maybe if analytics show something different. Apparently that's, from what you're saying, it sounds that way, but I don't get it.
Yeah, it just feels like such like a non-competitive way to go out. When you bunt your 3rd strike foul, it's like, that's like, I don't know. To me, I don't understand it. And there's also what's the upside? You maybe barely get a single, like you maybe beat 1 out. I don't know. Not a big fan. Lizzie asks a good question here. How do we get Soto to get more RBIs? He's helping Manny, but it'd be awesome if we could see him go off against LA. I feel like Soto's role is always going to be more of a table setter. Now, it would be nice to have some guys on when he comes up, and he's had a few opportunities where he's had some big-time hits already on the Padres, but I think that you continue to hit him too. I think that works really well. I think Ha-Seong Kim hitting leadoff against lefties and Jurickson Profar hitting leadoff against righties is probably the best way to go. Now, Profar has been slumping for a little bit. He kind of goes up and down throughout the course of a season. Yeah. We've seen this for a few years now with Profar, where he'll probably start heating up in the next couple weeks. And I hopefully like to kind of carry that into the postseason. I think that'd be a perfect timing for that. But I think Soto at 2 is the perfect spot for him. I think Soto is your ideal number 2 hitter in your lineup. In any lineup, like he is the perfect guy to hit in that 2nd spot. So that's why I would probably say. I know some people are. I see Justin and Lizzie are asking about Soto leading off. I don't think it's the worst thing to have him lead off. Like, don't get me wrong. I just think that I don't know. Now I'm kind of talking myself into it because then he gets extra at bats if he hits lead off too.
Yeah, more and more you're starting to see all these teams bat their best hitters 1st and 2nd. It's happening almost everywhere around the league, whether not even in just the MLB, in college baseball, high school baseball, you're seeing it all over the place where you're starting to get those top guys in the first 2 spots of your lineup because you want them to get the most at bats. And I think the thing with Soto though is that he's perfectly entrenched in that 2nd spot. I mean, I feel like he's probably been in that 2nd, 3rd spot his whole career. So I don't know. For me, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if he's comfortable in that 2nd spot, you leave him there. I mean, it's not going to make much of a difference. We're talking about this whole RBI thing. Having a guy in front of him that gets on a lot, whether it be Ha-Seong Kim against lefties or Jurickson Profar against righties, that is going to be the best way to get him the RBIs. It's not like he hasn't been set up for RBI opportunities. He's had plenty. He's just not capitalizing yet. Now, I'm not saying that that's not going to happen eventually, because it's going to happen eventually. But in terms of the RBI opportunities, I do feel like he's getting them. It's just that he's not capitalizing yet, and he's going to. But I think he's perfectly entrenched right now in that second spot. I mean, ideally, you would have wanted to have Tatis lead off, but that's gonna have to wait until next season. So I think for now, you leave him there. It does still give him a little bit more RBI opportunities, but you also, like I said, you're starting to see more and more the best guy starting to bat second, and the second best guy is starting to bat first. So I think that's perfect where he is right now.
Yeah, I'm there with you too. I mean, I think second is probably ideal. If he started hitting leadoff too, like if they're like, hey, Profar's slumping. I mean, I think him hitting leadoff against lefties, you got to do that every single night. That are lefties on the mound, because he's just been so great in that spot. And even though Kim's like, his slugging isn't that bad against lefties, like he's not hitting a lot of home runs. It's more like he's gapping the ball and stuff. I mean, he has like 6 or 7 home runs on the season. So it's not like you're like losing, because I feel like that's also like an aspect is like, oh, if you hit like a guy that has some pop at 1, then you're kind of, instead of maybe potentially getting 2 or 3 run home runs, you're getting solo shots. But that's not the case with Kim at all. And Kim's also a really good base runner and really fast. So I think that's kind of an upside there. Maybe against righties you could flirt with it, but I don't know if it's something that I would necessarily do right now, just because the Padres lineup is actually finally kind of coming together over the past little bit, which has been nice to see. But yeah, okay. Campy. Luis
I wanted to talk
Campusano.
about him.
Dude, because everyone on Twitter is saying, oh, he looks terrible, this and that.
He looks good.
He looks way better than he did before.
No, I saw some like catcher accounts that were just praising how good he looked. Dude, he looked good. Like, yeah, maybe that pass ball, maybe it was on him. I don't know. But he looked good. I don't see anything to complain about other than maybe the throwaway to Manny, but he looked perfectly fine back there. I mean, I think we're gonna see him throughout September. If he stays up, you're gonna see him catch Musgrove's games more often than not, just because Joe Musgrove has really emphasized. I don't know if everyone saw the article, but what Kevin Acee has stated is that Musgrove has been working a lot with Campusano to be able to get him back there and call his games, and he's basically told him, like, I don't shake off catchers that much. I'm gonna leave the game totally in your hands. Don't be scared to call pitches. Don't be fully confident in your stuff. And he left that up to Campusano, and nonetheless, you get a really good outing from Joe Musgrove. Joe Musgrove's numbers against the Giants, by the way, fantastic. He has like less than a 1 ERA against them. So he's been so good against the Giants. But when it comes to Luis Campusano, dude, he looked good. He was getting his RBIs. He got his hits. Like, his approach at the plate looks much better. I mean, I don't feel like there's a reason to complain about Luis Campusano right now. And if you want to complain about Luis Campusano, it could be much worse. A guy in the minors right now, Jorge Alfaro, was much worse. But of course, he's probably going to come back, and if he's healthy, he'll be much better. Jorge Alfaro is a good player, like, has a lot of speed. Just the strikeouts is what kills us. But he's dealing with an injury right now. But other than that, man, yeah, Campy look perfectly fine back there. I don't know what the complaints were about, you know?
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. That's what I felt like too, because it felt like he called the game a lot better. It felt like a lot of times, like, especially like I know Blake Snell's like the guy that gets brought up a lot, but like he just kind of looked like frustrated with Campusano, and that was early last year. But now we're looking at it, dude. There has been a lot of time to make progression in his game, so I feel like a lot of like the slander and stuff towards Campusano's defense and catching ability is more of just like looking at the past and kind of being like, hey, like, this is what I had a problem with, and even if it's not looking the same right now. So that's kind of where I'm at on that.
Yeah.
What about Beatty? You saw he got called up today?
The spy is back, bro.
Right in line for the Dodgers series too.
I just don't understand. He was shit in AAA. He was shit in the majors with us. It's like, I feel like there might be a guy down there that has more upside. Now, maybe when Alfaro's back, you send down Beatty. I don't see a reason to send down Campusano. I mean, it seems like Joe Musgrove wants Campusano back there. So I really do think that Beatty should not be on the major league roster, whether it's for outfield depth, whatever it is. Jose Azocar is much better than Beatty. So, yeah, I'd rather have him as our outfield depth. But Hopefully we still see Campy on this roster, because I really don't believe that Matt Beatty deserves a roster spot right now. And then who was the other one? It was Reese Kinnear. Now Reese Kinnear is like, I don't expect him to be up for that long. I know the Padres were entertaining the idea of bringing up Ryan Weathers because apparently he's topping out at 98. I don't agree with it. I would rather have Castillo, but we're gonna have to see how that all goes. I really don't think Kinnear and Beatty are gonna be up for long.
Yeah, and they only came up because of the roster expansion. So also, like, when we're looking at that, they could very easily just be sent down to for a Castillo, for a Weathers. I don't know if I'm an advocate of that one either. I don't know if I want to see Weathers in crunch time. All right, let's go make the playoffs. Let's put the game in Ryan Weathers' hand at this point.
Yeah.
But dude, no, I think I don't really understand the Beatty stuff. Beatty's hit has under a 400 slugging on the moon
in El Paso. Yeah.
You can't do that, man. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. But I think that Beatty, I forget, does he hit against? Is it righties that he only hits one guy, one like hand, like left or righties? He's very platoon. Like he's definitely a platoon player.
Yeah, he's a platoon player.
Which one is it? Is it lefties or righties that he hits well?
I think it's lefties. It's weird. I think it's lefty on lefty that he's good. I don't remember, to be honest. He sucks, so I don't really care to remember. But I hope we don't see him for that long, you know? Like, I feel like he provides no upside off your bench.
Not to mention he's an atrocious defender. Okay, now this turned into us ranting about Matt Beatty being bad at baseball. But yeah, I don't know. What else you guys got? Well, we're gonna talk about this Dodgers series in a little bit here, but trying to see if like I feel like it's just kind of like, hey, the offense is waking up. Look at this. It's a beauty. Like, I'm still confident in the bullpen. I'm confident in the starters. I think the offense is the only thing where it's kind of like, don't know how confident I am with them actually being like, and it's not like the guys either. Like, I like a lot of the guys that they've brought in, but it's just like for some reason they were just not gelling when it first happened. And I feel like the last couple of weeks we're starting to see them gel a little bit. And even just like big time hits. Like, what are the scores of these games? 6-5, 4-3, 5-4. We have just been begging for them to consistently put up 4 to 6 runs, like in that realm every single time. And that's what they're starting to do. And like, we don't need to see them go off and, you know, how they were doing before, where it was like 1 run, 2 runs, 0 runs, 18 runs. No, I'd rather see 4 runs in those 4 consecutive games opposed to this super up and down offense.
Yeah,
but I think that's been good.
And I think we kind of forgot to take into account that when new guys come to your roster, and it's 3 or 4 new guys, when they come to your roster, it might take a little bit of time for that acclimation process, and we're finally starting to see it come together. I don't think. I mean, of course, that first game you saw Brandon Drury hit a home run in the first at bat, and you got super excited. But it takes time for guys to come to a new organization, a new city with world, not just like playoff expectations. We got World Series expectations. You're going from, for example, for Josh Bell, their expectations is to win like 60 games. You're coming to a team that expects to win 88 plus and contend for a World Series. Same with Brandon Drury. You're going from one of the worst franchises in baseball to a team trying to contend for a World Series. So it takes a little bit of time because there's so much pressure. There's so much pressure to perform up to expectations. And now I feel like they're loosening up. They're gaining confidence in the guys in front of them and in back of them. And this really felt like a series where they finally freaking played as a team, because we had talked about it before. It feels like it's such individualistic performances, right? And finally this one, they had really good at-bats. They were hitting with runners in scoring position. I think in the past like 6 games or something, they're pretty close to 500 with runners in scoring position. So this is just beautiful. It was beautiful team baseball to be able to see them go out there and have pretty much everything clicking except the bullpen. It will click. And we're going to, like you said, Matt, we're going to talk about this Dodger series. And I'm actually very glad, because this leads me to my next point. I am very confident in the starting pitching. But we know the but. There's one guy. There's one freaking guy that has his next 2 starts against a team that has already mashed him twice. Sean Manaea. Sean Manaea has 2 more starts against the Dodgers that are lined up. Not only did I did I think he probably will just miss this one? I really thought they were going to have him not pitch either time against the Dodgers. And as of right now, it's looking like he's going to pitch both. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Dude, I don't get it. Like, I don't know why you keep throwing them out. Like, we know what's gonna happen. I don't know if you've seen like the numbers. He hasn't got through 5 innings in either of the starts, and he's allowed it was 6 runs, I believe, in the first start and 8 runs in the last start. That's a non-competitive game. That game is over in the second or third inning.
Yep.
Like, I don't know why it's September and you're not realigning your rotation to not have him throw. I really like we talked about earlier in the week about how they could do it. And not only would that have worked, but you wouldn't have to throw him next series either.
Exactly.
And now, I mean, dude, at least pitch him on Friday. So then he could pitch on Wednesday against the Diamondbacks. But they're pitching him on Saturday, and so then he's lined up to go Friday against the Dodgers. Maybe they don't pitch him, and they have someone else who's pitching tomorrow. Is it Darvish? Yeah.
Darvish
So maybe Darvish could start that game, and they do it then. Maybe that's what they're banking on. Like, hey, we're gonna have him pitch this one, and if he looks bad, then we won't pitch him the next game. But yeah, dude, it's just like you're not putting out your best roster in that game. That's Urias versus Mania.
Yeah,
that's not good.
What were we saying we could do? We were saying you could throw Clevenger on Saturday. Was that what we were saying? And then Snell on Sunday?
Clev would be Saturday, and then I think it's Snell. Yeah, Snell would be Sunday. Yeah.
Dude,
so you could have done Darvish, Clev, Snell.
And you could have had at least 2 of them pitch against him again the very next time. It makes no sense why Sean Manaea is still getting these starts against high leverage teams. I think the whole plan should have been have Sean Manaea start against the Diamondbacks, and then I'm pretty sure we play the Diamondbacks again, possibly right after. I'm not entirely sure, maybe the Mariners, but I don't understand the point. And I think the whole thing right now is like, all right, we're not competing with the Dodgers for the division. We need to just win games in general. But you're also catching the Giants at such a good time. Like, why, or not the Giants, sorry, the Dodgers at such a good time. Like, why not try and maximize your potential to win? I feel like you got to give yourself the best chance against, and you still face them 9 times. So I feel like you got to give yourself the best chance to win. And I don't think Manaea does that, man. Manaea, not even just against the Dodgers, against every team, he gives you the worst chance to win out of all of your starters as of late. And this struggle has been ongoing for months, like probably like a good 2 or 3 at this point. And nothing has been fixed. He's had 1 good outing ever since, maybe 2. Nothing has been fixed. He's not adjusting. So it's like, I don't think he's earned the right to be able to start these big time games against the Dodgers. And I love Sean Manaea, the person. He's fantastic, like brings such good vibes and everything like that. But when it comes to being on the mound, you don't want him on there.
No, I'm totally there with you. But let's talk about this Dodgers series. The Dodgers are going to be coming off of a pretty brutal stretch not a brutal stretch, but a tough series against the Mets where they split that series. They won the first 2, then lost the last 2 in that series. Padres, meanwhile, are coming off of a sweep against the Giants. So, heading in this series, the Padres have been non-competitive against the Dodgers lately. It has been really, really rough for this Padres team when they've played the Dodgers. But let's take a look at the matchup. So Friday you got Darvish versus Dustin May. That's a big oof right there. Dustin May's nasty, bro. And then Saturday is the guy we were just talking about, Sean Manaea against Julio Urias. And then Sunday is Clev against Heaney. So what are your first thoughts on this? And we'll talk more about overall, and then we can make predictions at the end. But what are you thinking about this series just in terms of like a matchup standpoint?
Matchup standpoint, pitching matchups? That's an L, bro. Sean Manaea is an L. I always feel really confident in you, Darvish, going against the Dodgers. You guys, for anyone who's been listening for a while, and Matt and Chase, they know whenever you Darvish is pitching against the Dodgers, I always feel very, very confident that he'll be able to give us at least a quality start, that he'll be able to go 6 or 7 and allow minimum 3 runs, and he's going to give us a chance to win. I always feel confident in that. Now you're facing Dustin May, who's amazing. Dustin May is nothing short of amazing, and he's given us fits for a really, really long time. Or ever since he came into the league, he's been giving us fits. So I'm very scared of that matchup. I mean, you're kind of right. I feel like you should kind of throw Manaya on Friday, and maybe you'll have a better performance off Urias. And I understand Urias has been really good since the All-Star break, but we also don't do too bad against Urias, I feel like. So I definitely feel like you're right in that aspect, but nonetheless, they're going Darvish against May and Manaya against Urias. And obviously that Saturday one, I don't feel confident at all. I feel pretty confident in Sunday that, I mean, Clevenger hasn't been his best version of himself, but hopefully he's finally able to. And I feel like the big thing with him has been location. He just keeps missing his spots with his fastball sometimes, and it's killing him, especially because he doesn't have the best movement on his fastball. He doesn't have crazy velocity. So whenever he misses, it does tend to punish him. But hopefully he's able to figure that out. I feel confident that we'll win Sunday. I think we're just going to win Sunday. I will say I think we're just going to win Sunday just based off the pitching matchups. But who knows, man? The Padres just crushed 2 aces, one of them being one of the best aces in baseball. They're going into the series hot, and we had both kept saying, you want to catch this is the best chance you have. You're catching the Dodgers at such a good time. You're coming off you won 5 of the last 6, and they just played a very tough series in New York where it was 2 one-run ball games and then 1 2-run ball game, which in the 8th inning they had a chance to tie it up. So 2 very tough ball games, and they're flying in tonight. It's like an 8-hour flight, something I saw earlier. You're catching them at a really good time, so hopefully they're able to capitalize on that, man. This is your best chance to beat them.
Yeah, so I think you should go into this one chalking up Saturday as a loss. I think that one's going to be a loss. I would be very surprised if the Padres win that one. Now, would that be an amazing surprise? Yes, that would be awesome if Manaya got the dub on Saturday. But looking at Friday, I think it's a little bit interesting because we bring up how good Dustin May is. And Czar asked, May's coming off Tommy John. Don't be so confident he's the same guy. No, dude, he's the same guy, bro. I've seen him pitch a little bit. He's disgusting. However, he's not being stretched out that much. He's probably pitching 6 innings max. Innings. They're not throwing him that much. So we've talked about this before when the Padres match up against the Dodgers, but they need to get pitch counts high on these guys.
Yes.
Gratterall also just went to the IL. Like the Dodgers bullpen, the Dodgers whole pitching staff is pretty banged up right now, actually. So if game 1 of the series, you're coming off an off day, they're just coming off of a tough stretch in New York. They're just flying home, right? You got to go out there and you got to win on Friday. You have to take that game. If you take that game, I still don't think you're winning Saturday. No. You can take Sunday. You could take 2 out of 3. I think this is going to be a series where the Padres are either going to win 1 or they're going to win 2. I don't think they're going to get swept. I think they're playing really well. I don't think the Dodgers I think this is a tough spot for the Dodgers, but this is one where you really want to take 2 out of 3 because this would be good. This would be a nice momentum booster. You play them next weekend too, actually in San Diego that time. But then you also play the Diamondbacks next week, and the Diamondbacks are randomly really hot right now.
Yes.
So you got to start and that's why I think that Giants series was really nice to see the sweep, but you got to win this series. So a lot of the Padres or the Dodgers pitching is kind of banged up. I see CV comments. Gonsolin's hurt too. Yeah, Gonsolin's hurt. Bueller's out for the year. That's been known for a little while. I think Kershaw just came back today.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you got to win. I think you got to win against May. And even if you can't hit May that well, if you can get May out of the game early, I still think that you can turn that game into a win because Darvish can go late in games. Darvish can give you 7 potentially if he's on. That's the big thing. But if he gives you 7 and it's a 1-0 ball game or 2-1 ball game, either way, going into the 6th inning or something when they have to pull May, you can feel confident that you might take that one. And so that's why I think you got to start the series off. Their bullpen, I don't know how it's looked over the past few days, but they've just played 4 consecutive games. I think they've played 7 consecutive games actually. So their bullpen's probably not that well rested. So yeah, you got to go out there. You got to win this game on Friday. And if you don't win Saturday, then you come up on Sunday, and I think you have the advantage in that one. I think Clev is better. I know that last time, if you look at the box score, it's like, oh, Clev got rocked against the Dodgers. It's like, all right, dude, there's like 2 pitches that he hung, and that was it. Like, and that was the thing. Like, they were both sliders in the middle of the plate, and it was his last. One of them was like his last pitch of the game. So you take away. I mean, like, I guess that's fair, but I don't know. I just don't think he looked bad. You know, like it wasn't like Manaea's start where Manaea looks like he's still in batting practice out there. Like Clef still looked pretty solid. So I think you can take 2. I don't know if they will take 2, but you can take 2. So that's kind of where I'm at with this series, but I think it's going to be a good one, except for Saturday. I don't want to watch that game. Maybe.
Yeah, and I have this feeling that for some reason Sean Manaea is going to ball, but I really hope he does, man. I'm not praying on his downfall. I like Sean Manaea, but I'm trying to be realistic. I think one point you brought up that was the best thing you said for sure, easily, is that the difference between the Padres and the Dodgers these series, right, is every time we have one of our aces up, they get them out in like 5 innings because they have such good competitive at-bats up there. Whereas the Padres, they get Tony Gonsolin, or the Dodgers get Tony Gonsolin up there. They get Tyler Anderson up there, and it's just 3 pitches, you're done. 3 pitches, you're done. You know, it's very consistent. They're not able to rack up the pitch count. That has been the biggest difference. Is they get our aces out in 5, we get their aces out in 7. That has been the biggest difference for sure. And that's why you're seeing us get our asses kicked by them, because they have such good competitive at-bats to the point where it gets to the point where it's all right. They're fouling off so many pitches. It's a full count. I unfortunately have to pound the zone now. And then they take advantage and hit a 3-run bomb the way Max Muncy did. That's been their advantage against us. So that was a really good point that you brought up for sure. I'm really glad you brought that up. But I'll take 1 win in this series if I'm being completely honest. I will take 1 win because at this point, like, we know it's not a rivalry at this point. We're not competing with the Dodgers for the NL West. We're competing with the Phillies and the Brewers for the 5th and the 6th spot. We need. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like, we need to beat them. We need to beat them. We need to beat the Dodgers. We need to hope the other guys lose. I mean, that's really the only way. We have no chance of division anymore. So, I feel like there's not really any added pressure in the fact that you're facing the Dodgers. I feel like the Padres have always kind of pressed when they face the Dodgers. But now I feel like you got to play loose baseball because you're not against them specifically anymore. You're against 2 other teams that are vying for playoff hopes that unfortunately have a much easier schedule than we do. So just go out there. They're playing very loose, fun baseball right now, some very team-oriented baseball. Have competitive at-bats. I think that's going to be the biggest key to winning these games. Dustin May is, I think in his last outing, went 6. You want to get him out in 5. You want to get him out in 5, ideally. So, and get to that bullpen that's a little banged up right now. Same thing with Urias. You want to get him out in 6. Hopefully you get him out in 6. That's going to be the biggest key to a Padres victory, though, man. And I feel like they were able to do that against Rodon. They were able to do that against maybe not Webb so much, but they were able to get to them. So hopefully we see the same of that, a little more of that.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be big. And that's why I was emphasizing that first game of the series, because I feel like that's kind of like, all right, we got the win in the first game. Because also, if you look at these series, most of the time the Padres have got smoked in the first game. Like the first game was like, oh, dude, you got destroyed. So I think that's why I think that like that specific game is a big one for me. But yeah, you're right. May pitched 6 innings last game. He actually had a quality start. He went 6 innings, allowed 2 runs. And he was going against Sandy Alcantara, so he ended up getting the L in that one. Rough because he's been pitched. He's only pitched 2 games so far since coming back from Tommy John. But yeah, that was that. I mean, he still looked good. That's the thing. So I think you got to get him out and get that bullpen early because I just mentioned how many games they had played. Like, dude, if you can start kind of getting into the bullpen early on, all of a sudden that Saturday and Sunday game, if you can maybe get those starters out decently early, you might be in a spot where you have an advantage. Maybe not the Saturday one as much, unless you brought up you feel like Manaea might flip the switch or something. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll happen, but yeah, I don't know. I think this is one of the better series in terms of matchups. Like, dude, last time the Padres matched up against the Dodgers, we looked at the lineup and was like, dude, they might lose all of these games. This is a horrible spot to be in, and they were playing terrible. They were in a horrible slump. So this time around, I think it's a little bit different of that. But yeah, they have not played the Dodgers well over the past year of baseball, I would say.
Yes.
Early 2021 played them really, really well, and that was when the Padres were playing their best. And lately, they haven't quite been there. So I think getting a series win is definitely the goal. Taking 2 out of 3, I think that'd be huge just for moving forward throughout this kind of postseason, push. But if you take 1 out of 3, I think that's pretty realistic. I think that's probably the most realistic in this series is that you take one of either Friday or Sunday. But taking both of those days would go a long way. But Isaac, anything else you got?
If you're able to take 2 or 3, man, we always say the hottest team wins. It's important to get hot at the right time. If you're able to get hot starting now, I mean, no better way to head into the playoffs. So just beat them. Go beat them, man. I feel like like I said earlier, I feel like they pressed so much against the Dodgers knowing that, they want that rivalry. They want to beat them so bad. And now, like I said earlier, there should be no pressure. You're not facing your rival anymore. This is just another competitor. Unfortunately, it's the best team in baseball, but this is just another competitor for right now until the playoffs. Hopefully you see them in the playoffs, but for right now, I hope they play some loose baseball, man. I mean, I feel confident in Darvish and Clevenger to be able to go out there and help us win, keep us in those ball games. Bullpen's going to be able to do his job. I mean, this day off was as clutch as it can get, knowing that Martinez gets 2 days off in a row. Garcia only had to face 1 batter yesterday. Josh Hader gets his day off. I mean, very clutch for this day off for sure. It seems like the Padres don't get a lot of those where it's like, oh, nice, we have a day off after a day the bullpen is taxed. So it's good for us to be able to have one right now. Other than that, though, let's go beat LA, man. I really think they're going to do it. I really think they're going to have me at least once. And considering the way that we've been playing the Dodgers lately, I would take once for sure. So, I mean, let's go beat them, man, for sure.
All right. I like that. But yeah, I think that's probably going to do it for today's episode. So thank you guys for hopping on. We're going to clip this Dodgers segment later on here too. So that'll be popping up. This is from the live on Thursday night. And we'll also be going live Sunday after the final game of the series against the Dodgers. So we will see you guys all then. Thanks for joining us tonight and have a great rest of your night.